My goodness, you guys. Happy Wednesday. Let's dive in, shall we? Let's do the thing. It's going to be great. I'm excited. So, basically, the purpose of this is to open up some sort of one on one style coaching to my free Facebook group. This is something that I do twice a month inside my membership program. I'll talk a little bit about that at the end if that seems like something that you're interested in getting a little bit extra help with. I'm happy to share details with you. So, yeah, but first, I want to go through and answer all of these really, really great questions. A lot of different things that people are struggling with. And I think even if you didn't submit a question, you probably have had these thoughts floating around in the back of your mind and could use some help with that. And so that is what we're going to be working on today. And if you don't know me or you're new to me, my name is Melanie Summers and I am a professional home organizer. I'm an ADHD organizing specialist. I run a company called I Speak Organized out in the Pacific Northwest. So in the Southwest Washington and Portland, Oregon metro. So we kind of serve those two communities. I've been in business for about 10 years and I have a wonderful team of organizers that I work with and we are gangbusters busy. And so I started my YouTube channel probably about 6, almost 7 years ago, and it has blossomed into a really beautiful community of folks who come together via the channel, via our Facebook group. And it's a great place to have resources to help you run your business and be successful running a 6 or 7 figure organizing company. So that is what I do. That's why I do this. That's why I have my coaching program, why I do one-on-one consultations with people to answer questions. If you've ever worked with me before, you know that that's just in my heart to help. I'm not a gatekeeper. And so I want to give everybody access to good quality information. So that's what we're doing today. You can definitely check out my hilarious gamer screen glasses. They're like a little bit amber tinted. So if you're wondering why I look so odd, like Hunter S. Thompson, that's why, because I'm wearing these like super duper eye protecting screen protector glasses. Today I'm still like trying to get used to them. They're new. And so they definitely feel a little weird. Anyway, so let's go ahead and dive in and get to these questions. And if you have additional ones, feel free to comment them, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're watching live on Facebook, anywhere, anytime is great. And if I don't get to your live question this afternoon, I'll be sure to answer in the comments. Okay, so first of all, I love to get a little bit of data. So when I had folks fill out the form, 36.4% of the people that filled out the form have been in business for less than 3 months. So they're just starting out. There's a good chunk of people that have been in business for about 1 to 3 years. And then it's about a 50-50 split for everybody else who's been in business for either 3 to 5 years or less than 1 year. So biggest pool of people are newbies, brand new folks just starting out. So that's kind of where I'm going to tailor some of my information. Although for those of you that have been in business for about 3 to 5 years plus, I want to make sure that the information is helpful for you as well. So I'm not going to be holding anything back, but it's just interesting for me to see that. So let's go ahead and dive into the very first question. Very first question is, what do you recommend for people trying to show their face that don't do well at big networking events? Great question. There's a couple of different things that we have done over the years when it comes to networking that don't involve you going to giant mixers or going to these big chamber events. I do think it's an important skill and it's definitely something to step outside your comfort zone a little bit to introduce yourself, but there's ways that you can do it in a smaller scale environment. And so these are some of my favorites. One of them would be to have a rack card, like a little like 3x5 card that has all your information and a QR code and maybe a little bit about your pricing, just just basic information that people might ask. Generally, people want to know who you are, how you do what you do, and a ballpark of how much it's going to cost and sort of what separates you from the competition. And so you can put together a rack card and take those or a flyer or whatever it is and head out in your car to realtors' offices, or you can go talk to mortgage brokers. A lot of those folks are used to having business owners just drop by, like cold style. I know that sounds a little bit intimidating, but once you kind of start doing that, you realize that it's not necessarily that big of a deal, nor is it that much of a bother. You'll generally, if like, for instance, if you walk into a realtor's office, there's going to be an admin or a receptionist sitting there. You can go and introduce yourself, let them know that you were in the neighborhood, you wanted to drop off some cards, and ask if the lead real estate broker is available to chat for a few minutes. If not, you can leave your information and then follow up. Usually what I do at that point is I will connect with them on LinkedIn. I will follow up with a phone call and an email. Generally speaking, if you're just trying to send out emails to people with networking in mind, you're not going to get very many responses. And it really is a numbers game. So I will map out a route of all these different places that I want to hit up. If your niche is more like seniors and move management, maybe you want to start getting in touch with some of the assisted living facilities. They have different folks who are in charge of sales and marketing. So getting people into their facilities, selling them apartments and whatnot. There's also people that are in charge of like entertainment. And so they love to have people come and do lectures and speaking, maybe on downsizing or how to organize your memorabilia and your photos and, whatever else. So go in, stop in, talk to the receptionist, introduce yourself, hand them a rack card and ask if you can speak to the sales director, if the entertainment director is available, just so that you can get a little conversation going. Now, if you're not good off the cuff, that's one of those things where I do recommend creating a little bit of a script and practicing it. Not so that you're going to stand there and read it and be like, my name is Melanie Summers and I am a professional organizer. No, it's you want it to be a little bit more organic than that. But if you have trouble remembering the details of what you need to say, scripting and practicing definitely goes a very, very long way. So that's one of those things. Like if you were to take my Overlooked to Overbooked course, it's a course that my very first course that I released a few years ago. And it's all about client acquisition, lead acquisition. And so one of the modules is dedicated to networking. And so I actually provide those scripts and templates that you can customize so that you can practice those things. So if you have questions about that, of course, get in touch with me if you're interested in checking it out. Really, really helpful. But create yourself a little script, get in there, talk to people. The next step with this would be to ask if it's okay. So if nobody's available to talk with you and you've dropped off your business card, before you leave, I would say the next step would be to inquire about sitting in on, like if you're going to a realtor's office, sitting in on their next meeting. So realtors tend to get together once a week. This is very common for a lot of realtors' offices. They get together once a week and they just talk about what's going on in their community. They often will invite mortgage brokers and they invite guests. So people to come and just be an expert insight. And so I've often been invited to those meetings, or rather I've invited myself by being like, hey, can I come to your next lunch? They call them lunch and learn sometimes, something like that. I'll invite myself to a meeting. The admin will set it up. That's a great way, an easy way, if you're not able to catch somebody the day that you come into the office, to introduce yourself. That gives you an opportunity to go use your ChatGPT, put together a little 5-minute spiel about who you are, what you do, and then your main talking points are going to center around how you make their job easier. So if you're working with a realtor, obviously having a super well organized and staged home is going to help them sell their homes faster and at higher prices. So if they walk into a home that needs to go on the market next month and it's full of crap, they know that they can call you to come and help them declutter and stage the home or whatever it happens to be, whatever you want to offer as a specialty to come in. And so if they don't know that you offer that service in the community, you owe it to yourself and to them to go in and talk to them. Oftentimes when I speak to these admins or I go in and I talk to these realtors, like 70 to 80% of the time, they're like, I didn't even know this was a thing. Where have you been my whole life? I want to hire you, this and that. We've had realtors hire us for their own spaces or for their short-term rental properties and, all kinds of different stuff. So That is a great way, if you're not into these big networking events, to still network with people in your community. Yes, it's scary. It's scary in a different way, I suppose, but you will find the more you do it, the less icky it's going to feel. This is one of those things where, again, I want to reiterate what I said at the beginning. People in those industries expect that business owners are going to be coming in. It's a mutual beneficial relationship because you're not trying to sell anything to them. You're trying to help make their job easier, which is why they love networking. There's so many other opportunities that come from that. You could also look into just events that you can attend. Like sometimes there will be trade shows. So, not necessarily a networking event where you have to be on and, like, get a booth and receive all this information, but maybe you want to go to like a home and garden show or something. Bring a friend, bring some business cards, and just kind of go as a spectator. And if somebody strikes up conversation, maybe they're trying to pitch to you, at which point then you open it up for the opportunity to let them know what you do, exchange business cards. We do that. We do street fairs in the summertime where we'll rent a booth space and do that. That might be more up your alley. So you kind of let people come to you, or you can do vice versa as a spectator, go to people that are sort of mutual interest and introduce yourself that way. My last little piece of advice here, if you're really wanting to overcome the obstacle of networking in person and you don't like large scale events, would just be to join a small networking group. You don't have to join a BNI, but you could join something similar. There's a lot of other organizations where you can pay like 40 or 50 bucks a month to be a member, and it becomes a referral networking group. So we did that. It was a very small group. I would say on average, we had, let's say, like, I don't know, 5 to 7 people, maybe upwards of like 10 people show up at a time. The only scary part about that, I guess, would be is you having to stand up and give your like, hey, my name is Melanie Summers. I'm a professional organizer. I own the company I Speak Organize. We specialize in ADHD organizing strategies, whatever your like little elevator pitch is. So I find that environment, whilst a little outside your comfort zone, is important because it helps you practice and hone your elevator pitch. If that's something you haven't done before, again, highly recommend working on it, scripting it, all of those different things. If you need help, that's one of the first lessons in my membership program, is how to create various different versions, like short and long form versions of your elevator pitch, so that you have material ready to go. Sometimes it's just about having the preparation done ahead of time so that you have something to do. You have a routine to follow, a script to follow when you go into these events. It helps you feel prepared. And if you haven't done that ahead of time and you're just going blindly with like a business card, like, of course it's going to feel really uncomfortable. So hopefully that kind of helps answer that question. If you have any follow-ups, feel free to let me know. I'm going to dive into the next one. How do you figure out where to focus when there's always a million things to do and ideas and new shiny things, but also dealing with all that goes on the back burner when there's current client stuff to do? Okay, so this person sounds like they're doing a lot on their own. And it sounds like they're kind of coming up against, all the different things that go into running a business. And so when you get to that point in your business, it generally means that you need to start building your team or outsourcing some things. So this is definitely a longer conversation that I do a lot of coaching on in my membership program, for instance. I'm trying to think if I have any live streams or anything, any YouTube videos where I talk about this more in depth. I'll look at it and comment them if I can think about it, but I'll try and just kind of give you the 30,000 foot bird's eye view and answer this piece by piece. So basically, how do you figure out what to focus on when there's a million things to do? So obviously you need to, I like to map things and put them in categories. And so this was a workshop that I taught for our local NAPO chapter in Oregon, probably like 3 or 4 months ago. And so it was kind of just about organizing information and prioritizing it. So I put things into spreadsheets and I use ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever your preferred, language model processing software is, to brain dump everything. And then we start to put it into different categories. Like we try to figure out which tasks have to do with marketing, which ones are back end tasks, which ones have to do with visibility, which ones have to do with day-to-day operations, maybe team building, and just kind of see the patterns. Like you can let the tool do the job for you of determining like, wow, a lot of the things on this list have to do with marketing. So maybe that might signal to you that that's something that you really need to focus on in your business. And so just kind of like parsing out all that information, then assigning it a priority. And so generally speaking, this is where, so one of the lessons I teach in my membership program, there's actually two of them that kind of go into this, is designing your day and designing your week. And what I like to do is I encourage people to have one CEO day every single week, which basically means that you don't have any meetings, you're not working on site with clients, you really have the time and space dedicated, if possible. And I know it's really hard when you're working in your business versus on it to be able to do that. But I do encourage you, especially if you're feeling like you're pulled in a million different directions, you need that time every single week to work on your admin tasks. So that's going to be where you can do this brain dump, start to organize information, and maybe start to work on, one of the categories of things. So, weekly stuff like that for me would be setting up my social media posts for the month, or it would be checking in. I mean, it's going to be different for me than it might be for you. So maybe that's going to be checking in and following up with leads that day. Maybe that's your back end day where you follow up and start to get new people in your pipeline, follow up with people that have ghosted you. It could be getting some bookkeeping done. It could be looking at and assessing what areas you need to outsource and starting that process. I often tell my coaching clients that you don't have to hire a team member, but maybe you can outsource a project via Upwork or Fiverr. I remember I have a classic example one time of after we did a street fair, I had tearaway flyers that people filled out in person on paper and dropped their information into a slot in a box for a drawing. So we could draw a winner of like a 90-minute free organizing session. Well, I didn't realize, we got hundreds of entries over the course of this weekend. The last thing that I wanted to do and the last thing that I had time for over the course of the next few weeks was to sit and manually enter all that information in to our CRM. And I would have rather gouged my eye out with a rusty fork, like straight up. I was just like the prospect of having to sit there with hundreds of people's information, name after name, phone number, email, all the things, just like, oh my gosh, I didn't want to enter it into the system. And so I realized obviously I needed an electronic version of that to avoid that issue. So what did I do? I outsourced that project. All I did was scan each of the things into a nice long, list of PDF versions. And I sent it to somebody via Upwork, and they did it for me. And by the end of the week, I had everything organized into my CRM, and I paid like, $100, $150 to do that. And it was well worth the investment. So you can just think about how to outsource that way if you're not ready for full-blown team operations, but maybe that's something that you want to think about. If you're feeling pulled in a million different directions, it's probably an indication that you need to start bringing people in to help you with some of that stuff. As far as new shiny things are concerned, one of the very first lessons that I talk about in my membership program is, finding your zone of genius or your niche and creating what's called an anchor mission statement. So this is the thing at the root of why you do what you do and the people that you really truly want to help. So that's going to mean that every single decision that you make for your business should be filtered through your anchor mission. And if it doesn't check the boxes of what you're trying to achieve, it means that you need to eliminate the thing that you're thinking about. So like, for instance, move management is like such a big moneymaker and such a shiny object in our industry right now. A lot of professional organizers are bringing it into their work. We do that as well. It now accounts for well over half of the jobs that we do is the packing and unpacking and whole home system setup. It's a lot of work. It definitely requires a team to do it well, especially because it's a large scale amount of hours in a short period of time. that people are paying for. These are like 5-figure gigs that we're booking every month, which is great. But if you're trying to do that by yourself and you're really more interested in like a Swedish death cleaning approach or a KonMari approach where you're working one-on-one with the client, but you're getting like, distracted by the shininess of like, the $15,000 job that somebody else is booking in another town near you because they're offering move management, ask yourself, does it filter through your anchor mission? And is that really where your heart is at? Is that where your niche is? If it is, then you need to take the steps to kind of, move forward with that. If not, it's okay to let it go and let that be for somebody else because you are meant for a different type of client. So I really like to sit and journal those things, really kind of circle back to my anchor mission. I'm really big on just having those key anchors in writing that I revisit every single year and update and hone and really reflect on so that as I go through the grind of making those decisions every single year, I know that what I'm doing is aligned with my overall mission in business. And so if you haven't done that, highly encourage you to do it. If that's something you need help with, again, I'm going to just keep saying it. Talk to me about the membership program and taking advantage of all of those super affordable resources that are just done for you for that. New shiny things, but also all that goes on the back burner when there's client stuff to do. Yeah. So that's where I think it might be time for you to investigate getting an assistant, either somebody to handle that back end stuff or somebody to handle the in-person stuff so that you can focus on having the time. The last thing I'll say about this is in addition to your CEO day every single week, I like to actually have a CEO week every quarter. So 4 times a year, an entire week. I know that sounds scary, but if you do your financial forecasting and budget it in ahead of time at the beginning of the year, you can budget that time for yourself, set it aside, put it in your calendar. That's one of the first mistakes that a lot of people make is they have all these ideas and they write them down, but it doesn't get put into your calendar as it exists. So do that when you do your planning for the year. Budget in the time for that 1 week every quarter. That's going to be your heavy hitter. So that's where there are no meetings. There are no client inquiries. If you need those things to continue running, perhaps you have a team member take that on so that you can take that week as sort of like a work retreat and go through and figure this stuff out. That's where maybe you work on your SEO. Just go through your big list. What are all the things that you need to work on? Blah, blah, blah. And start to nail those things down and give yourself a whole week to do it. Once a quarter. So yeah, that's also part of some things that I help people flush out. Okay. So let's keep plugging away here and answer the next question. What is your process for acquiring and training lead organizers? Okay, this is a very detailed question. So I'm going to do my best to give you that sort of 30,000 foot bird's eye view of how this process works. So acquiring them is one of the harder things. What has worked for us? The first thing that's worked for us isn't going to work for everybody because a lot of people find me from my YouTube channel, oddly enough. My lead organizer that's been with me the longest for about 3-4 years, she found me on YouTube. So start a YouTube channel, just kidding. But that was how a lot of people found me. That is how a lot of my other contractors and other organizers have found me. So people that are interested in starting their own businesses, I am a huge proponent of sharing the wealth, and it has only helped improve my business and improve their skill by having independent contractors, other organizers starting their businesses come and get experience working with I Speak Organized and with my lead organizer. You want to try to look for people who may love to organize, but may not be so interested in running their own business. I think that happens to a lot of people where they don't realize all the ins and outs of what goes into entrepreneurship. And then when they do figure out, holy crap, there's so many things that go into this that I just don't have the time and energy to keep up with all of it. I just want to organize and go home. Those are the people that it can be really helpful. So let me think of some other places where we found good people. We're part of a homeschool co-op, and that community has been pretty instrumental for us in me finding good people with good availability, because they often, like a lot of their teenagers especially, have been great to bring in as assistants on certain jobs. We have moms with a little bit more flexibility in their schedule where they can come and help with different jobs, especially if their kids are a little bit older. So if you have like middle school, high school age kids or kids in school, you get these moms that have free time in the middle of the day. So even if you don't have a homeschool co-op, maybe, join your PTA or talk to some folks, talk to some families at your school and see if anybody's interested in working with you. The reason why our homeschool co-op has been so easy for me to find people is because we use Slack, which is an app. It's like a communication app, kind of like Discord, where you have different channels. And so I'm actually able to post job postings there, private job postings. So I don't have to pay whatever those big job posting sites are. I don't even remember what most of them are called. So I just use that, post for free, and I get a lot of people that are able to step in. The other thing that we did that was really helpful is we put a careers page on our website. And I'm really big into SEO when it comes to visibility. That is my number one client acquisition strategy. That is something that I teach in depth in my membership program, is basically how to let your website do the majority of the work for you when it comes to lead acquisition. And so because of that, our website is extremely visible online. It's extremely searchable and gets decent traffic on Google. So as a result, we have that careers page on our website. And so that gets on average like 1 to 2 inquiries every single month. And so I have a pool of applicants so that when we need help with jobs, all those people's information is stored in our CRM. I can email that list and say, hey, we had a position open up. If you're still interested, please fill out this form. And so basically the form is just a Google form. It asks them what their experience is. It asks them how many hours they want, if they're comfortable traveling to certain cities. What else does it ask them? It asks them for pictures and or videos of their current work, stuff like that. So they just kind of fill out the form. And that's a good way to kind of get an idea of who you're working with, because everybody's going to have different availability. And so your job as the business owner gets a little bit more complex when you're trying to piece people together. So lead organizers, I like to have people that can either lead a team or work independently without me on site. So I'm not on site with any of our jobs unless I need to be anymore because of all of the back end work that I have going on with our business. So when it comes to training those lead organizers, it's all about SOPs. So SOPs just basically stands for standard operating procedures. So basically, anytime you're on a job, what I like to tell people to do is once you're done and you get in the car, you can do a little voice memo or something and just talk about what you did, talk about your process, what you did for the day, how long it took you, what the steps were, what you accomplished, how many bags of donations did you do, blah, blah, blah. So just like talk through the process. And then I like to take the transcript of that and plug it into, again, a chat GPT or something like that, and have it help me create an SOP of how I organize. So that's one of the other very first lessons in my membership program, is coming up with your signature organizing process. And that also serves as a marketing tool. But what it also does is it gives you the bones and the outline of your training materials. So your organizing style, how you like things done. Basically, you just need to start documenting that stuff and putting it into standard operating procedures of, this is how our organizing process works. We start with this, and then we do that, and then we do this, and then we do that. And if you can hand that over as a tangible PDF or Google document or whatever it is, that person's responsibility as your lead organizer is to follow it and go forward with that. Then you can break it down by space. You can create an SOP of exactly how you do linen closets, how you do pantries, how you do kitchens, how you do packs. A lot of our SOPs are going to include additional resources like YouTube videos that are super helpful on, how to pack delicate items, how to line boxes, things like that. I just put resources together, put it in writing, and give it to our leads as training. The other thing that you're going to want to do is package all of this stuff together into a training manual. So training manuals are going to have the information about your company, your mission statement, all the things that we kind of talked about earlier when it comes to networking, your elevator pitch. All of those things encompass the philosophy and process of your business, and they should be documented. And so once you document those things, you put them into your training manual. Then you have all your SOPs that you have started creating. You put those into that document, and that serves as your training manual. The other thing I like to do with training team members, sometimes I have been known to have them come to my house and work on spaces in my own home. I don't have time to organize my whole house all the time. So sometimes my garage explodes with inventory or, random things and needs to be parsed out. And so I'll bring people over to work on it. I don't really give them too much guidance. I'm not really a babysitter. I like to kind of see what people bring to the table on their own so that I can figure out what type of organizer they are. Are they a micro organizer? Are they a macro organizer? Are they good with decluttering? Are they better with that, really intricate decision making? Are they really good with staging and system design? And, there's all different types of people and what their strengths are. So it's helpful for me to kind of get to know how they do that in the field. And so bringing them to my house is a way to do that. Back in the day, when I first started training my original lead organizer, I just had her show up and assist me on jobs and see what she did and how she did it. And the people that really take the initiative, then you can start giving them the training materials and away you go. Okay, that was kind of like a short explanation of kind of how we do it, how we find people. Lastly, I will also mention one of the best ways that we found people is through street fairs. So you're there obviously to introduce yourself to the community, possibly get some new leads. We also got a ton of people coming up to us being like, are you hiring? So between that and our SEO on our website, people filling out the careers forms, my YouTube channel, that is, and our homeschool co-op Slack where I'm posting jobs. Those are all the best ways that I have personally found to acquire and train team members. Next question. Oh my goodness. I need a new lead organizer, help with little repetitive back-end tasks, someone to take product shopping completely off my plate, and maybe a project manager. I know lead comes first, but then what? Do you decide this based on budget? And how do you decide who to hire first? Okay, so this is a great question. We think of it a little bit differently, and I could be wrong about this, but it sounds like they kind of run a bit more of a luxury organizing outfit where product shopping is a regular thing. Maybe this person has regular inventory on hand. Perhaps they have a warehouse or a place in their garage where they are keeping product and showing up with product in hand for majority of their jobs. We tend not to do that. We do it custom based on the client's budget. And so all of our organizers kind of take on the task of product shopping. So I'll just explain to you kind of how we do it and see if that would help you versus having to hire individual designated people for every single thing. I would agree with you that hiring a lead organizer is definitely going to come first. So that is somebody who is going to be able to manage your team and or work smaller gigs by themselves. We already kind of went through, the process of how we acquire and train those folks with the SOPs and all of those different things. And we serve as sort of the oversight for that and are available to answer questions and blah, 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 all those things. Help with little repetitive back-end tasks. So this is where people, okay, here's the thing. For us, it's based on budget. And that was kind of the tail end of your question. Do you decide this based on budget, and how do you decide who to hire first? Yeah, we decide it based on budget. And a lot of times stuff for that is expensive, and people might not like what I'm about to say, but I outsource to folks overseas for a lot of back-end stuff. Okay. So for instance, my video editor, because I do a lot of podcasting. I mean, this is my business. Okay. So you have to think about what your repetitive business back-end tasks are. So for me, I outsourced a bookkeeper. She's local, but she runs a small business and she's very reasonably priced. I pay her like $250 a month or something, and it is worth every freaking penny. She was one of the first people that I hired years ago. So bookkeeping is completely off my plate, which is amazing. When it came to video editing, so editing my podcast, all my YouTube, all my short form content, all of my video, short form, long form, whatever. I outsource that to my video editor. Her name is Eve. She lives in the Philippines. She's freaking amazing. I've worked with her for a couple of years, and I had a budget of, I think, like $150 a week or something like that. Like that's what I could budget. And so that goes a long way for somebody in the Philippines. And you get good quality work and they speak English really well. So that worked for me. I did the same thing with social media management. So I have a social media manager. He is in Pakistan, I believe. I've worked with him for about a year. I found all these people on Upwork. And again, it was all based on budget. So again, like I think I have like $120 per week budget for social media. So Anwar takes care of posting. Like I will create video. Eve will generally like turn it into short form clips for me and parse everything out. And then I hand all of that over to Anwar, and Anwar will do my captions and my hashtags, and he'll do all of my scheduling and stuff like that. Sometimes he'll take my photos from jobs. If we've done a lot of before and after photos on jobs, he'll take those and turn them into little GIFs or short form videos for me. And then English is not like his strong suit. So I will help with caption writing and stuff like that. Like there's a little bit like you're not really, when you outsource that way, you can't, unless you have the budget to pay an actual like American social media manager. And sometimes those people are charging like $4,000 a month. It's really expensive and you may not have the budget for that. You kind of like have to accept that there's going to be a little bit of training. There is still going to be a little, like your hand is going to be in that pot a little bit in order to get the results that you want. So in order for me to work with the people that I work with, sometimes I have to step in and make sure things are spelled correctly or do a little bit of like light tweaking and things like that. But they're doing the majority of like the copy and pasting and the setting it up in the systems and doing what they do well. So it takes that time off my plate. And I will tell you that even just freeing up that hour here, another hour there, another couple hours there, like that stuff adds up big time. And so that's how I outsource those little back end repetitive tasks. So look into hiring somebody through a platform like that, or post a job, base it off of your budget, whatever you can afford. That's going to determine how many hours that they can work for you every single week. And there you go. When it comes to product shopping, taking that completely off your plate. So if you are definitely doing inventory management, I would say if you have somebody on your team that's already really good at that, like if it's an assistant, also task that person with inventory management. So that is part of their job. And it just is going to be based on how many hours you can pay them for that. We tend to implement admin fees, like a percentage. There's a whole training that I have in my membership program on how to start implementing percentages for admin fees. So for instance, if we're booking a job that's $5,000, there's going to be like a little 5% bump in there that is an admin fee. And that's going to cover things like paying a team member to do inventory management, or pay a team member to answer emails or do sales or lead acquisition or whatever it is. Okay, so we tend to implement those little fees on top of the actual labor hours in order to make sure that happens. If you want to do that without implementing a fee, what we actually end up doing most of the time is just charging for those services a la carte. Donation runs, dump runs, donations, product research and design, product shopping. We charge the client by the hour for that. So if we're charging the client $35 an hour, I am reimbursing my team $25 an hour for that time. So that extra $10 an hour is getting funneled into the company to pay for admin stuff. So that way we're not having to charge our client additional admin fees, if that makes sense. So same thing with with donation runs. So we charge the client, I think at this point it's $20 per car, and I'm reimbursing the team. Like they're just going to Goodwill down the street, I'm just reimbursing them $10 per load. That other $10 is going to the company again to pay for credit card processing fees and anything else, like all of the business management fees. So that way we're not having to nickel and dime our clients. So you may want to look at if you are doing a lot of product and a lot of inventory, it probably would be smarter for you to factor that in as a percentage and an admin fee versus doing it the way that we do it and charging it hourly and just baking in some. It's again, I'm just giving you a couple of different options of how to work it, but that would be my suggestion, would be to figure out how to bake it into the costs so that you can pay a team member to do that. I don't think you need to necessarily go as far as hiring a designated person for just this thing. Maybe split it up amongst your team. Whoever, like for instance, for us, whoever is on the job, we may have 2 to 3 jobs running per day. We've got a team over here in Camas, Washington doing a playroom. And then we've got another team over here helping somebody pack. And then we've got another team up in Longview working with the client, setting up their new home. And so it's hard for those 3 people to have to communicate with one central person in charge of inventory versus them just taking care of it on their job themselves, because they have the direct communication with the client. They have the direct understanding of their budget for product. They have the measurements. So they are just checking in with me and saying, okay, today I did 3 labor hours on site and I spent 2 hours doing product research and design and shopping. And so I know to charge the client accordingly for the labor hours and then for that add-on fee. That's kind of how we handle it, so that it just, for us, that's just what makes it easier. So hopefully that's helpful. Okay, next question. My goodness. What do you think about a hybrid pricing model, package and hourly? And when a business offers organizing as one of its many services? For example, I'm a former residential architect whose business was conceived to help people either age in place or downsize and move. I'm not an organizer who offers decorating. I am more of a designer. Think kitchen and bathroom remodel, complete with construction documents, permit plans, contractor interactions, etc., who also offers organizing and downsizing and move services. I'm a certified age in place specialist too, and provide written reports on homes readiness with suggestions for changes. The design services would have to be hourly, but the organizing services could be packages. Yeah, I think that we offer both package and hourly models as well. And so the way that it works is, for us, is we put all of that information, we basically just break it down and itemize it for them into a spreadsheet that gets put into the project proposal. And we estimate how many hours it's going to take to do the labor. And then we also estimate the fees. So for some of the things that you might, some of this extra stuff that you might be doing, like the aging in place stuff where you're coming up with the plans or the documents, permits, stuff like that, doing your written reports, anything that's done offsite. I don't know if you want to have like flat fees associated with that. I would just come up with a list of services that fit into each bucket and decide whether you're going to charge for them hourly or whether you're going to charge for a flat fee. And then just like ordering off a menu, when you are designing a project proposal for a new client, you pull the things from the menu that you think are going to suit their project needs the best and throw that in, and that becomes their custom project, basically. That's how we do it. That seems to work really well. It's very transparent. It kind of gives people an idea of what they're looking at. And then for a lot of the larger jobs, people are often asking us to itemize things so they know where their money is going and why, like what the fees are, what the time was that was spent. And so we just break it down that way. So design your menu of services. What are flat fees? What you charge hourly? Pick and choose what to put into the proposal and then give it to the client, just like you would for anything else. Pretty straightforward once you've systematized it. And I'm usually able to put proposals like that together for clients in a couple of hours, and away we go. So I think that a hybrid pricing model is going to give you the best bang for your buck. It's going to be the easiest. It's going to help you with increase your ROI rather than just charging hourly. I see so many people in Facebook groups that are just saying, oh, just charge hourly. There's no way to estimate. That is bullarchy. It's just not true. I'm sorry. And when we started doing our pricing this way, we made so much more money and developed so much more trust with our clients, and we become so much more transparent. We just elevated our business in a way that was not possible by just charging hourly. Okay. So if you want to learn how to do that, come talk to me. Like that's what I train people in doing. I have tried so many different systems and I feel like I finally found something that works really, really well for us and works really well for our clients. And it just helps tracking this information make it so much easier. So yes, hybrid pricing model, absolutely possible. That's what we do. That's kind of how we do it. Okay. I have the LLC established. Can I have clients sign a waiver to cover me legally instead of getting insurance? I only want very part-time, like 1 gig a month. No, no, no. Hard stop. Hard stop. Okay. One thing that people are, and I didn't understand this either. I didn't know what I didn't know until my husband went to law school. He's a law school dropout, but he works in contracts. Like, so he works in the CBD industry. I'm not going to go off on that whole tangent, but basically his job is to understand and write laws. So he lobbies for hemp in Washington, D.C. fairly often. And so he's constantly writing, reviewing, signing, negotiating contracts. Okay, so legal agreements. That is literally what he does all day long. And the first thing that he told me was contracts are only going to get you so far. If you hire a lawyer or you're in litigation, this or that, there's always ways to find loopholes, and they're not as legally binding as you think they are. They're also negotiable. Contracts are negotiable. I saw this in a Facebook group a few weeks ago where somebody was offended that a client asked for revisions in a contract. And people, there was a lot of weird information floating around in that thread. And so I chimed in because contracts are negotiable. That's just the nature of the way they are. So people that know that are going to request changes. We actually welcome and expect it. And we tell people when they go to sign the agreement, if you need changes or you have questions, just let us know. It's very normal. Somebody may want to take out a clause, or they may want to rewrite or change a little piece or this or that. And as long as it still provides a decent amount of protection for you, it's good. But just go into it knowing that just because somebody signs a document doesn't necessarily mean that they can get around the legality of the binding nature of an agreement later, and it's negotiable. So you 100%, I don't care if you work one time, I don't care if you work 3 jobs a week or 3 jobs a day like we do, you need business insurance. It's not worth it to go without the insurance. We've had so many instances. It takes one time for something to happen. Think about it. Like, you can't drive a car. I say it like this. If you only drive your car like once a month, you still have to have insurance for that car, because you could get in the car and you could hit a tree, or you could get in an accident that one time. It doesn't matter that you're doing this thing less often than somebody else. Of course, it's going to increase your risk. The more you do it, the more risk you have, but it doesn't matter. You need insurance, and it's not that expensive. My favorite insurance company to go through is PenX. So that's PEN-EX. So you just Google that. They have insurance specifically for home organizers. They will walk you through the whole process. It's like, $500 a year. Okay. So like very affordable. We're talking like, and it's going to depend on what state you live into. It could be cheaper where you live versus where I live. But that's like $50 to $60 a month. Like, that's really not much. And if something goes wrong, let's say, I've had team members open a window and the handle falls off, or I've had team members like pack a garden hose and the hose disintegrates. I've had like paintings fall off the wall and break vases. We've had people ask us where things are and they get misplaced. Luckily we've never been accused of stealing anything, but I know organizers where that's happened to them before. And so we have had to use our insurance to cover the cost of damages. You helped a client install an over-the-door organizing rack, and then over the course of a year, they put too much crap in it and it damages the hinges of the door, and they come to you and say, well, what the heck? The thing that you suggested ruined my house, and so now I have to replace my door. Are you going to help cover the cost of that? That's why you have insurance. Okay? It doesn't matter if you do it one time. It doesn't matter if you do it 3 times a day. Get insurance. That's my soapbox moment for that. Okay. Next question. I am trying to expand into maintenance sessions, but haven't successfully created a pitch, how to price, and transitioned any current clients. Okay. So I'm looking for guidance in how to do these things. I think it often also blends with the home resets, but I don't know how to position the price point to avoid sticker shock. I'm much more than a mother's helper, which is more often requested. Okay. So they're trying to expand into maintenance sessions, but haven't successfully created a pitch. Okay. So I'll tell you how we do it. Our maintenance rate is slightly less expensive than our regular organizing rate. And in order to get access to our maintenance sessions, you have to successfully complete a package with us. So the package, our minimum amount of hours is 12. So you have to complete at least 12 labor hours, which honestly in most organizing jobs is nothing. Like that's like 1 day's worth of work with 2 organizers, basically. So if you complete a 12-hour minimum with us, then you are automatically enrolled in our maintenance program, which is $5 an hour less per hour. And it gives you perks. So you want to think about like, what are the perks of a maintenance program? So you get more flexible scheduling, you get a designated organizer, you get, maybe a little bit more leniency on your rescheduling policy. Maybe you get a designated day every single month or every other week. You get to choose whether you work weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. You can kind of create a menu and people can choose what parameters work best for them. And they get that slightly lower hourly rate because they're more consistent business for you. So all people need to do for us is finish their package, and then we automatically enroll them in our maintenance programs. Anybody that continues to work with us past that 12 labor hour package or whatever package, a lot of people are booking much larger packages than that. Not necessarily saying that up front, because some people are booking really big, 60-hour packages with us because that's the project. So once they finish that, then they're enrolled in the maintenance program. We also use the maintenance rate to help soften the blow when we blow our estimate. So people are really afraid to estimate jobs because they're like, well, what do I do if I go over? It's like, you're going to go over. I prime the clients ahead of time to let them know that the scope will probably change once we start getting in there. And you may want to add things on, or it's going to depend on decision-making speed and blah, 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 blah. I can only give you my best guess estimate based on the information that you've given me and what I've seen. We may end up needing more hours. If that's the case and we end up going over the estimated hours, we'll drop the rate down to our maintenance rate and continue with your permission. So if we reach our max budget that we've set out in the proposal and you want to keep going, we'll check in with you and say, hey, this is where we're at. This is about what we have left. Do you want to continue on? What's your budget? Do you want to budget in some extra hours? I would say 99% of the time, once we get in there and start working through the scenario or working through the session with the client, they realize the amount of work that it takes. And I could retire if I had a nickel for every time somebody came back to me and said, oh my gosh, Melanie, now I understand what you're saying. You were totally right that it was going to take, this amount of time, whatever. It happens all the time. People are happy to continue working, and it softens the blow a little bit because we're charging them slightly less money as we continue. A lot of people will just continue working with us from there. Then you just come up with your list of perks for them, kind of based on what I laid out, and Bob's your uncle. You're ready to go. So we automatically enroll them. It's in their contract. We have a list of, the days and times, your preferred organizer. Maybe they're entered into a special referral program. Just get a little creative with it and make it part of your original pitch. So let the new leads know that this is something that you offer once they love the work that you do. And so it's a way for them to continue working with you. Okay. How do you have consistent clients monthly? Wow, that is a very difficult question to answer succinctly. It's going to depend on a variety of different things. You need to know your niche. You need to have a really good pricing structure. You have to be very visible in your community. There's various different ways to be visible. Honestly, I'm going to recommend that whoever asks this question take my Overlooked to Overbooked course, because it's going to give you all the information that you need to book clients consistently. Because if you don't know your niche, like who you're serving and what they need on a consistent basis, you're not going to have a service to provide consistently. You need to know, what do senior citizens need on a regular basis? What do people that are moving need on a regular basis? What are overwhelmed, busy moms going to need on a regular basis? Do you offer the services that are going to have them asking you to come back again and again and again. So you need to know your niche. You need to know your client base really, really well. If you haven't figured that out, you need to spend some time doing that. Really, really important. In my opinion, one of the most important things that you can offer yourself as a business owner is investing in good keywords. Again, that's something that I teach really in depth in both my membership program and the Overlooked to Overbooked course. So you can learn about high performing keywords, the size of your text and where it should go on the page. I mean, a variety of different things to make sure that you are showing up on Google. Backlink strategies, using blogging to interlink between different pages so that people discovering your blog can go to your main pages, having a form on your website that's super easy to fill out so that you're getting leads coming in consistently, choosing your networking strategies, knowing how to post in Facebook groups so that it's not salesy. There's a ton of promotional strategies, digital marketing strategies. What are the 4 content pillars of social media posting? Visibility, engagement, leads, and sales. You know, there's different ways to post on social media, and I don't see people posting in the 4 different buckets consistently. They're either posting only visibility posts and kind of posting every once in a while, or they're only posting buy my stuff posts and they're not seeing traction using social media. So having a good social media strategy is going to help with that. So there's a whole lot that goes into having consistent clients monthly. The other thing you could think about is using a lead generation service like Thumbtack. That's going to give you access to a pool of what's called problem aware. So people that know they need help and are willing to seek the help. So utilizing a platform like Thumbtack. Stay the frick away from Angie's List. Don't ever use them. They're so predatory. I saw on Facebook the other day that once you cancel with Angie's List, they keep your profile active, but they add a banner to your profile that says not Angie's List approved. Like, that is freaking so predatory and so awful to do to a small business owner. It makes me sick to my stomach. So don't use Angie's List. They suck. Thumbtack is a little bit better. So that's a good way to get more consistent clients, getting your face out there, networking, a lot of the things that we talked about earlier today. Again, it's a much more nuanced conversation. Looking into really understanding SEO was such a game changer for us because I spend $0 on marketing, none, 0. I don't have to go to any networking meetings anymore. Handed my business card out to anybody and I don't even know how long. SEO does 100%, SEO and referrals, word of mouth, do 100% of our client acquisition. And we are so freaking busy right now. We are booked out until the end of next month. So that's how we do it. It's all kind of laid out for you in there. What is the most important action for me to take to build clientele? I'm currently taking a handful of pro bono clients to gain testimonials and experience, but I'm not 100% clear on how to market for solid leads. Okay, so this basically is the same question as the one I just answered, with a little bit more detail involved in it. So I'm curious as to what a handful of pro bono clients is. Like, I really don't recommend doing more than 3 for those testimonials and experience, because the referrals that you're going to get from doing something like that, people are going to come to expect that you're going to be doing a lot of the work that goes into this for free. Then I don't want that for you. Or you're going to start charging really, really rock bottom rates. And when you charge rock bottom rates, you get rock bottom style clients. So I really don't like to see anybody charging any less than $40 to $50 an hour, even as a solo organizer, even in a more rural area. Like 40 is even way too low. And it's one of those things where I like to teach people financial forecasting in my membership program because it helps you get an idea of what your financial goals are. Like, it hurts my heart to think of the sheer volume of people that I've coached. Like, I've worked with hundreds of organizers as a coach, and I can confidently count on one hand out of all of those hundreds of people that had no idea what their financial goals were for starting their business. They didn't know how much they wanted to make for the year. They didn't know Like they just picked an arbitrary hourly number based on what they thought the value was. And it was all like based on their own emotional understanding or what somebody else was charging. Like, and what I mean by emotional understanding is what they thought their services were valued at. And a lot of people didn't think their services were very high value. You know, because they didn't understand the value and the power of what they were bringing to people, even as like a brand new organizer, which made me really sad. So, I don't want you to do that. So just limit, like be careful if you're offering free services for people. It's one thing if you're doing it as sort of like a good Samaritan, like you're just trying to help out a neighbor or something like that. It's another thing if you're trying to start a business and make a living or contribute financially to your household or something like that. If you're going into it with a charity mindset, you're not going to be a very good business owner. And I don't mean to say that in a mean way, but it's just the truth. There are people that don't need the money, that have the extra time, that have the skill. And every once in a while, they're going to be able to help that disabled elderly neighbor that lives next door. And I think that's wonderful. I've talked to several professional organizers. I will never forget going to, when I was speaking at the NAPO conference a year and a half ago, I met a gal who was running a very successful organizing company in Ohio, I think. And her husband was like a plastic surgeon or something like that. I don't remember exactly what he did. He was a doctor of some kind, but they made plenty of money. And she was like, I'm really sick of running this business and I just want to organize for people just to help them. And that was kind of like, she ended up closing her business and now she just kind of does it pro bono when she can. It's not like she's doing a ton. And I know some people don't like that I'm bringing that up or talking about it because they think that it's going to take away from their business, but it really doesn't. There are so many people out there in the world who need our help, and there's a person for everybody. And I say these things and I'm still really freaking busy. Okay. Like I don't worry about people like this woman taking clients away from me because I know where her heart is at and I know the types of clients that she serves versus the ones that I do. And I know that I'm trying to run a business. And so I'm attracting a certain type of client that wants a professional business to come to their house. Okay. So like for me as a consumer, I would rather pay somebody versus having somebody come over and give me, you know, a free service because I'm an entrepreneur. I respect that. I want to pay somebody to do that for me. And I attract clients that kind of feel the same way. So if you're trying to run a business, don't do it for free as much as you can help it. I understand trying to get the testimonials and the experience and so on and so forth, but limit it to, you know, maybe no more than 3 and really start to think about your pricing structure. I think before you think about marketing, you have to know what you're offering. And it sounds like we may or may not be there yet. So you may want to start thinking about your pricing structure, do some financial forecasting, determine what your hourly rate is, determine what your packages are going to look like if you're going to go that route. Learn how to at least give a little ballpark estimate of hours and learn what your services are going to be. Come up with your signature organizing process so that you can answer those questions for people as a business owner. What you do, how you do it, what the process looks like, and a budget ballpark. We have all that information available on ispeakorganized.com. We are not gatekeepers. I'm not gatekeepers with you, and I'm not gatekeepers with my clients. So you can go to my website and snoop it all you want and take a peek at how we present that information, because that transparency builds trust even before I've gotten on the phone or in somebody's home for a consultation. So I would say think about that first, then you will have something to market, and then go back to the previous question and all the answers, the stuff that we went through about having consistent clients monthly, and then implement that from there. Okay, next question. What is a referral program that works? When sending an invoice with a 2-week due date for payment, what's an appropriate window to follow up before the due date hits? Okay, let's start with the first one. What's a referral program that works? A referral program that benefits both the referee and the referral. We give, for instance, $50 off somebody's first session and $50 off the person who's referring. So if it's a former client, I'll reach out to them and be like, congratulations, you just got $50 off your next session. Do you have something in mind that you want to work on with us? And they'll be like, oh my gosh, yes, I do. And so they'll book a session with us and get $50 off. Same thing goes with the referral person. They get $50 off their first session and they're pleased as punch. We try to keep it really super simple. It's advertised on our website. It's also put into the contract. It's put into their proposal as like bonuses and extras. So there's a section of our proposals that say bonuses and extras of things they get. And so that's something that they have access to, and that works for us. Okay, when sending an invoice with a 2-week due date for payment, what's an appropriate window to follow up with people before the due date hits? Okay, my friend, we don't do invoices. We take payment up front, and we have credit cards on file. The only time that I ever used an invoice was with a university, because I was working with the finance department and I knew I was going to get paid because they had an actual budget set aside, like through the school. So it was a commercial gig. It's a slightly different way that we build. So that's the only time that I ever use invoices. If I were you, I would find a payment processor system if you're not already using it. Sounds like you are if you're doing invoices, whether you're doing like through QuickBooks or whatever. We've used a couple of different things. Project to Payment is a great one if you're looking for just a straight up standalone payment processor system. I'm happy to share the link with you guys for that. If you're looking into a payment processor system, my personal link gives you 3 months free access to it, which is pretty cool. Otherwise, it's like $20 a month. And they have really low credit card processing fees associated with it, like way lower than Square, way lower than Stripe, so on and so forth. We have credit card information on file. For any client that works with us, it's mandatory that we have that on file so that we can charge at the end of every session. And we also charge a 50% deposit upfront. So we are not chasing down invoices ever. Period. End of story. Like, I don't do that. That's way too stressful. So in your situation, an invoice with a 2-week due date for payment, that seems like it's a little far out. What's an appropriate window to follow up before the due date hits? I would say in this case, a week, and then 3 days before, and then the day before, and then the day of, and then every single day after that until it gets paid. I mean, I don't know. Like, the invoicing thing just makes me really nervous. I've seen way, way, way too many people get hosed doing invoices for payment, which is the reason why we don't do it at all. Okay, how do you handle a client after that invoice payment due date has passed and you haven't heard from them at all? See, this is exactly why we don't do that. I'm so sorry if that's happening to you, because that sucks. I literally, like, that makes my blood pressure go up and it makes me angry for you if that's what you're dealing with. And that's why we don't do that. So how to handle it? We follow up every day. Like, if I were you, I would follow up every day. If you're doing electronic invoices, you can hit the reminder. Sometimes if like we're having an issue with like, if like a credit card isn't processing, or like sometimes we take really big payments, like thousands of dollars up front. So sometimes we take really large amounts of money up front for deposits, and their credit card companies will flag it as fraud. So I'll use that as an example to say how I would contact the client in that case. I call them and I don't lead off with "you owe me money." I will lead off with just checking in to see how things are going. Like, if it's before the project, I'll be like, I just wanted to check in, see if you had any last minute questions, if there's anything I can do for you to help you prepare for tomorrow's session. I wanted to go over the details with you. Here's XYZ. They're coming at this time. Then once we've kind of gone through that, I'll say, okay, and by the way, I tried to process your payment and the card was declined. And I say, so in order for us to proceed, I need to make sure that payment is covered. And I do it with them over the phone that way. Same type of conversation will happen where I will call them and check in and say, hey, Della's just leaving the site. These are the hours that she gave me. How did everything go today? Did you have any issues? Do you have any questions? Happy to help. By the way, tried to process your card and it didn't work, or whatever. Like, that doesn't always happen to us, but every once in a while it will. And that's how we tend to handle it. If they are not responding to you and it's a large amount of money, you can take them to small claims court to recover the cost of it. If it's anything over like $1,000, it's just going to depend on what you're willing to spend on fees to reclaim that money. You can send them an email. I would pick up the phone and leave a voicemail. I would text them, have things in writing, and just let them know that they need to pay. And then if it's a small amount of money and they're just not paying it, unfortunately, that's where I would say you take it as a lesson learned and you implement a payment processor system and you take payment up front. You put it in your contract. We have very clear stipulations of cancellation, rescheduling, refunds, payments in our contract that need to be initialed and signed. We do not mess around with that. It is an initial point on our contract that says every client is required to have a credit card on file with our payment processor system in order to get on our schedule. Period. End of story. Because we are not messing around with that. So that's what my suggestion to you for how to handle that. Just no more invoicing. Like, to anybody who is in this position or thinking about it, don't do that to yourself. Stop taking cash, stop taking checks, invest in a payment processor system, especially like Project to Payment. Like I said, it's only $20 a month. It is well worth the cost of not having to spend all of this time and energy and stress of following up with people who are ghosting you. That sucks. That makes me angry for you. Don't do it. We don't do it. Okay. I always am looking to improve my process. What's been your best source for new client leads? Right now, we have a form for a free phone consultation on our site, but wondering if there's something that's worked even better for you. Nope. That free phone consultation form on our website paired with excellent SEO has been our number one go-to strategy for our onboarding of new leads process. We started using Jobber recently as our CRM, and they templatize everything. And so a lot of times clients can work through their process without us even doing anything until it's time to book the job and put them on the calendar. And they are submitting payment on their own and stuff like that. It's been really, really nice. But yeah, we do that primarily with our free phone consultation on the site. After the phone consultation, if it's determined from the phone consultation that it's a large job, we make in-home consultations mandatory to make sure that we gather enough of the detail necessary for my team to be successful and to give a really good estimate. We've gotten burned in the booty a few times by doing seed to sale over the phone for large projects. I know there are people out there that will tell you that's all you need to do, but it's bitten us in the ass really hard and made it extremely stressful for my team when I've done it that way for large projects, because I have grossly underquoted because I haven't received the best videos or pictures or whatever. And then everybody gets pissed off because they're like, I think this should be going faster. Why isn't this going faster? And it's like, well, you have twice as much stuff as you said you did. And had I been there on site to see that, I would have known and my team wouldn't have been as stressed out. So if the project is really large, it's mandatory that we do in-person consultations. If they want to just get started and get their foot in the door and do a basic organizing session and not go the package route with us, then we'll do seed to sale over the phone. That's fine, because it's just them kind of getting started and moving through the process. We offer both options to clients based on their readiness and their budget. So that is that'll determine which path our clients take, I guess, from the free consultation. Then we do the in-home consultation if it's deemed necessary. Then we'll go through and lay out the proposal where we itemize everything and give them the step-by-step and choose the different variables that we think we want to put in there for them. They sign off on it or they request changes. Then we give them the contract. They sign off or request changes. And then we take the deposit and put them on the schedule. So that's kind of how we work them through that process. Generally, it takes about a week on average to work a new lead through the process like that. Sometimes faster, sometimes slower, just depends. But yeah, so that definitely, that SEO piece with the form on our website has been the best source for new client leads, as well as, of course, like good networking and word of mouth. So the next question, what tools or software do you use to space plan a room? Well, there isn't necessarily a good one on the market right now. There was one that a friend of mine talked about on my podcast years ago. I think it's called Sophie or something. No, a lot of my team uses graph paper. I have used Canva for this. So I've used graphics and lines and things like that to kind of create a mock-up, like a digital mock-up in Canva of a space. They're not very high tech, like they're not blueprint, like architectural status, but clients find them to be really helpful and useful in space planning. But a lot of people really like to free draw with graph paper on the fly during a session and do it with the client during a session to kind of like sketch and map things out so that it's kind of more of a collaborative process. We also do something called space mapping, where we literally do it in person with painter's tape. And we're really just doing, like, we'll make an inventory list and we'll take measurements, and we have a list of measurements, and we will take the painter's tape and label the zones of the space, and we'll do that as a walkthrough with the clients. Once we have the measurements of that space, and we'll like take pictures of like a pantry closet, for instance, so we know how many shelves there are. We have the measurements of the depth, height, width, and all of that. Then they're doing the product research and design, which we're paying the team hourly to do that aspect of it. So we're not really using software at that point. We're just using Google Documents to write lists. We're taking measurements. We're using graph paper if it comes to that. I know some people are a little bit more design focused, so you can look into what some interior designers are using, because there's not really anything right now. So if there's anybody who's good with SaaS who wants to design and organizing space planning software, like, now's your time to shine. Get out there and do it. Okay, next question. How do you handle the financial side of shopping for a client? Already kind of talked about that. We charge hourly, and some of our team gets reimbursed. Some of the company gets reimbursed so that we are able to cover the cost of that. Do they give you their card? We'll do it one of two ways. I will either give a list to the client, and the client will purchase the stuff themselves and have it shipped to their house. If they want us to shop for it, that is just part of the hourly fee of the research and product shopping. It's all the same fee that we charge. It's just, more labor hours added on to the team. And I charge their card what's called a product research and design fee. So that way I'm not having to worry about any tax evasion, because sometimes if you're purchasing product for the client and you mark it up, you're required to report sales tax and things like that. So we don't do that. We just charge a fee for the service that we are providing to them. And I charge the card. So yeah. And if they're buying the product themselves, they can do that. And then they don't have to reimburse us at all, except for the time that it took to put the list together. Okay. Do you pay up front or charge the client later? We take retainers up front, like I mentioned, but we often will charge the client at the end of every session or at the end of the project. If I have their card on file and it's not a huge amount of money that's going to trigger like a fraud alert from their bank, we will usually charge the 50% up front, and then we will charge the remaining amount at the end, because the remaining amount at the end will change based upon how many donation runs there were, if any hours changed, if dates changed, if they added product, so on and so forth. Generally, we're just charging in chunks at the end of every session based upon what the team has done for. I think we're back. That was weird. Hopefully you guys didn't miss too much of that. Okay, last 2 questions, and then I got to get going because I have a client consultation right after this. Okay. How can I create more consistency in my business? By attracting higher quality leads, converting more discovery calls into booked clients, and diversifying my services beyond organizing jobs like memberships and virtual organizing in a way that feels sustainable and profitable. Okay. I feel like I'm going to do my best to answer this question. This is like multiple questions wrapped up into one that are very high level topics. I applaud you guys on your questions because you're thinking really deeply about this stuff. But in order to be able to answer this question for this particular person in the way that they need, I need to know what their niche is. I need to know what types of clients they're trying to book, what they're saying to the person on the phone that is, making them either book or not book. In terms of diversifying services beyond organizing jobs like memberships and virtual organizing, again, it's going to really come down to not getting wrapped up into all the different shiny objects and filtering these things through your anchor mission, who you're really trying to serve, what your purpose in the industry is. I think if you're really trying to create consistency in your business and attract high quality leads, that is an objective thing, because a high quality lead is going to, for me, is going to be different. Like, it's going to mean something different to me than it means to you, because my niche is probably different than your niche. I think understanding, narrowing down who you serve is the first step to creating consistency. A lot of people don't like to hear that. A lot of people are scared by that because they haven't thought it through. They think that if they serve all of these different people and they're not turning anyone away, then they're going to be super busy. But if your goal is to create consistency with high quality leads, you have to create consistency and high quality service. And the way that you do that is by serving a specific demographic in a high quality way, providing the services that that demographic needs. That's going to give you the people that are looking for something really specific and are going to be willing to pay you for that service. So if you're kind of dabbling a little bit of this and dabbling a little bit of that and providing a little bit of that and this and that, you're not really able to create the consistency there by really honing in and dialing in, senior move management or memorabilia or photo organizing or organizing for like closets or busy families and professionals, and like what those people really truly need. So the first step for you in creating consistency is going to be figuring out who you are best serving, like who you should be working with, and then really doing the research and dialing in what their needs are so that you can deliver the highest value service that you can. That's also going to help you figure out what services you should be diversifying into, because let me tell you, busy families and professionals don't give a shit about virtual organizing. Excuse my French, but they don't. They're busy. They don't have time to sit on the computer and work their way through a project with you. They are traveling, their kids are doing sports, and they have work, and they don't have the time or the desire to do virtual organizing. While it's very convenient for you because you get to stay home and you get to do it from the comfort of your computer and so on and so forth, that's not going to work if the clients you're working with are busy families and professionals. The only reason I'm bringing that up is because it shows a disconnect between what I need and what my ideal client needs. So for you, you need to figure out who your ideal client is and figure out exactly what it is that they need on a regular basis. What are they coming to you for time and time again? What are they really struggling with? Taking note of that and designing your services and your memberships for what those clients need. Now, ADHD organizing clients, great example of somebody that thrives with virtual organizing. Okay, so we body double with clients in a virtual organizing scenario. We sit and do productivity planning with them, financial planning with them. We work on their schedules and their routines. We do all of that virtually. So that is an example of a client where that would be a great fit. And so I know that I can really focus on developing my virtual organizing program for those clients because I know that's who I serve. So if you don't know that, it's going to be important for you to figure out that in order to create your consistency. So niching down, finding those clients in that niche is going to start to attract higher and higher quality leads because you're going to become known for that thing. We are known for ADHD organizing in Southwest Washington. And that's why most people come to us versus another organizing company that does quote unquote the exact same thing that we do, because we do it with the ADHD brain in mind, the neurodivergent brain in mind. That's how we're delivering our organizing systems. They are designed for people with short attention spans that forget things. We know how to follow up with those people to get answers from them so that we're not getting ghosted. We know how to communicate with them because we understand how their brains work. Okay, that works for us because we know our client inside and out really, really well, and we know what they need. That's how we figure out how to diversify our services, and that's how we make it sustainable and profitable. So hopefully that answers your question. It's really all about niching. Okay, last question. How do you put a clause or enforce a boundary, such as a dog, yes, that is constantly interrupting your clients and your client is allowing it? My recent experience was with an elderly lady and her schnauzer that was helping us sort clothes on the bed and grabbing the piles as we were creating them by category. The dog was under my feet the other half of the time, and this made our time go slower, and it was very difficult. Okay. How do you put a clause in your contract? You just write it up and you put it in there, and then you enforce the boundaries. I mean, you're a little bit late on this one, obviously, because, you've already started working with the client. You didn't realize it was going to be an issue until now, when you're in the situation. But, it's a good exercise in setting a boundary with your client and just letting them know. Okay, so if it were me in this situation, because I'm like such a recovering people pleaser, I would have a phone conversation with this person between sessions, and I would just check in and say, hey, I'm just going over a few, I'm just writing up my report for how our sessions have been going so far. And I wanted to check in and see how you feel progress is coming along with the session and get their 2 cents on it and whatever. They might be feeling like, things are moving slowly, or it's feeling really hard. They might be really super anxious, and having the dog with them in the room might be important for them to be able to function at all. So this is where you have to decide whether it is okay with you that it's moving slow. Like, is the reason that it's moving slow make you nervous because you're worried that your client is going to be upset that it's going too slow? Like, if that's where it's coming from, and you just have the open conversation about, how they feel, and then bring the dog up and say, I love, is it helpful for you to have the dog with us? Does it, give you a sense of comfort, this and that? I'm just worried that it's slowing the process down a little bit, because, the dog is being distracting. I'm not trying to be rude. Like, if you feel like it's helpful for your dog to be in the room with us because it helps keep you calm or whatever it is, like if it's helpful for you, I'm willing to continue to work that way. But just know that if your goal is to move a little bit faster, we should probably put the dog in the other room or in a crate or whatever. So just like treat it very humanly, have a conversation, ask them how they are feeling about it. For me, as an organizer, I don't like, I'm very much like of the mindset of, if my client's happy, I'm happy. Like, I don't care. Like, if they want to move at a snail's pace and they're going to pay me and they're happy with the progress and they feel like stuff's getting done, doesn't matter how I feel about it. Like, that's fine. Granted, I'm not on site very much anymore. My team has different standards. Okay. I work with coaching clients that have different standards. Like, they don't even want, some of my coaching clients don't even want the client in the room, period. Like, they have their vision, they do it their way, they get in, they get it done, they provide the results, and it is a representation of their company and how they want to get it done. And that is completely fine. I have nothing against that. That's just not how I work. Everybody's different. And as long as the client is happy, I'm happy. Some of my team members aren't that way. Some of my team members, I had one team member that is like petrified of dogs. Like, she's like in therapy because of a previous incident. It's very common. And so we have to put something in our contract about, animals must be secured. Dog bites are a real thing. This comes up all the time. You secure your animals. Kids are not there for sessions. I don't care if kids are around. Sometimes the kids can make things a little bit difficult. I've had team members come to me and say, hey, this kid was really distracting, was asking me a bunch of questions, was really slowing things down. And so I've had to get on the phone with the client and say, these are your expectations. My team member let me know that your daughter was having a really hard time with the decluttering process. And, we want to brainstorm how to make this better. Is it possible for them to go, with grandma and grandpa, or be in the other room or something like that, so that it's not so hard to progress? Just have an open human conversation about it. Put a clause in your contract. ChatGPT, for instance, is really good at writing clauses for stuff like this. Dictate to the tool what your needs are, have it write up a little clause, stick it in your contract, and you're good to go. If you really want, like, it's not one of those like legally binding things like a limitation of liability clause or something like that, where you would necessarily need an attorney to review it. But if you feel like you want to be on the up and up with that, have them review it. Just stick that in there and make sure moving forward people know. Secure your pets. so on and so forth. So that would be the way I would handle it, kind of get my clients' 2 cents in there and see how they feel about it. And then once we're kind of aligned on expectations, move forward with what we feel is best. Again, if you guys have any additional questions, I'm heading out to a client consultation shortly after this, but I will be back later on this afternoon to answer any questions for you that you might have additionally. When it comes to receiving additional support and support like this, if you know that you need this and you need more coaching, my monthly coaching sessions in my membership program are not 2 hours, usually only an hour. But I really do take the time to sit and very thoughtfully answer these questions for you. So if this is something you know you need and you need additional help, there were a lot of questions here about client acquisition. I have an entire standalone course called Overlooked to Overbooked. If you go to ispeakorganized.com/courses, you'll see it there. You can buy it outright. It's like 100 and however many bucks. I don't even remember. It's like so stupid cheap considering what you actually get from that course. You can buy it, take it. It goes through all of my client acquisition strategies in scrupulous detail with an entire workbook to help you with templates and scripts and know what to say when you talk to realtors and all the different things. That course is also part of my monthly membership program. So my monthly membership program, if you go to melanieSummersCoaching.com/empowered-organizer, or if you just go to ispeakorganized.com/courses, you'll see that there as well. It's $80 a month. It's cancel anytime. There's like 33 core lessons in there, including all of the overbooked stuff, how to like the client acquisition strategies. It's all in there. There are workbook pages for every single lesson in that course or in that membership program. And on top of that, you get this style coaching twice a month. So it's usually about an hour. Members get to submit questions like this every single month. And I sit there and I answer them in detail. I share my screen. I show you like, we even it's very collaborative. Like last week, we did one on drafting proposals. And I went through a sample proposal with them, like page by page, and told them exactly what my thought process was for going through that. And then at the end of it, one of the members was like, hey, can you do a step-by-step tutorial on how you use AI to write these proposals? And I was like, sure, sounds good. That's next month's topic. So twice a month, we do that. And we will go through and I'll answer all your questions just like I did today. I will answer follow-up questions that come in the comments for you. And then I will take off the cuff requests for deep dives, like show me how you do this. Show me your contract, whatever it is. I, again, am not a gatekeeper. And people in my membership program, a few of them, 2 of them are local organizers in my area. Some of them work for me as contractors, and I still provide that behind the scenes information because my goal is to make you successful in your business. I don't want to keep that information to myself because I want you to be able to go out and help people doing the things. I don't care if you use the same strategies that I do. Like, I'm not threatened by it in the slightest. I want you to be successful. So that's what you get when you come and work with me. I will go above and beyond. I'll sit here for 2 hours with you and answer every single freaking question that you have to the best of my ability and just kind of tell you what we do. So if that's something that you feel like you need more support with, go check it out. Send me a DM, send me an email. If you're looking for the link, I've got discount codes available. If you want to get like $8 off your first month or whatever it happens to be. Again, it's cancel anytime. It's like the Netflix of organizing content. It's on demand. You get immediate access to every single lesson. You get those coaching calls. We get together. We have a good time. I answer all the questions. It's very collaborative. It's super fun. Okay. So I would love to be able to do more of these for you in the future. I aim to do them maybe about once a quarter so that even if it's not in your budget to be able to come and sit with us, I don't always have the time to do that because we're just really busy, but I do try as much as I can to be a valuable resource for you, paid or not. So anyway, thank you guys for coming. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one. Enjoy your day. Peace out.